It's Monday Night Sports Talk on the airnetwork.net. Welcome to it as we head into a Monday night. Greg Banks live on the Air Network in the studio, and I'm hearing some buzzing here, and I imagine that's because we are testing out our... Yeah, I'm testing them. Well, hold on a second.
Yeah.
We got a little bit of buzz.
We need to turn that transmitter off.
Yeah, we were testing a transmitter. Anyhow, it's Greg Banks live on the airnetwork.net. Dave Shannon live in Altoona tonight, and Jimmy Ty live in Hamburg. Hey, listen, we are testing a new FM frequency, and you'll be able to hear us live coming up in weeks to come as we test it. We just got the equipment, matter of fact, yesterday, Dave. So we're going to find out. I guess it's going to be a grounding problem. I know you were an engineer at one part of your life, and so maybe you can help me out on that. But we'll work on that. But listen,
sure.
Jimmy Ty was the only member of our group between you, me, Chad States, and, of course, Jimmy Ty, saying back in October, look out for the Atlanta Falcons because they might show up in the Super Bowl. And, Jimmy, I got to tip my cap, man. You were right. What did you know about the Falcons that Dave and I didn't know, or even Chad?
Matt Ryan and Julio Jones.
I mean,
whenever
is that all we need to know?
That's all we need to know, right?
Honestly, whenever I forget who the Falcons were playing, but Julio came up with like 300 yards receiving or something like that. I'm like, dang, man, that's a team to watch out for. And then I start watching them a little closer, and I'm like, their defense is really good, but I was also watching the Packers.
Yeah.
And whenever Aaron Rodgers made that prediction about they're going to win out and all that.
You mean when he made this statement about for the people to relax and all that stuff because they were getting kind of out of hand.
Okay, and then I thought, okay, it's going to be a Packers, but I'm still saying it's going to be the Falcons because I just love their offense. Their offense reminded me of the old Houston Oilers offense. Does that make sense? Like the running gun.
Yeah.
That's me of.
Back in the days of.
I made that.
Yeah, who was the coach back then, Dave? Was it Buddy Ryan with the?
Glanville.
That's right, Glanville was.
Glanville's.
That's right.
That was Glanville. And interestingly enough, Glanville eventually became the Falcons head coach. Did he?
That's right, he did.
At one point.
Yeah. So, you know what? Here we go. Now, I go back to remembering when Michael Vick was with the Atlanta Falcons. I got to tell you, they surprised me. Just going into that game against the Packers, and we'll start with them tonight, in that 44-21 win over Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. You know what, Jimmy? Not only was their offense very efficient with Julio Jones, and also Matt Ryan. Their defense, man, looked like a killer defense. I never even knew that was coming because, quite frankly, we don't get their games on Sunday because we're getting the East Coast games. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
the thing about the Falcons is, like I said earlier, their offense was just they put up the most points in the NFL this year.
Okay.
Like over 500 points combined. Matt Ryan's going to be the MVP of the league.
Right.
Julio Jones is just as good as just as good as Antonio Brown.
Right.
And then they have a dynamic running back in Freeman.
Yeah.
And then you look at their defense with Vic Beasley.
Right.
And them guys, it's just they're a really, really good football team, and they showed it against the Packers yesterday, which the Packers is an excellent football team. Oh, no doubt. And, Dave, let me ask you this. If you had a chance to watch that game yesterday or saw the highlights, they worked efficiently on offense. Their defense was all over the field, of course, keeping Aaron Rodgers from scoring, at will. Matter of fact, I think it was like 31-0 heading into the third quarter. But does that solidify Matt Ryan's MVP this year? Or are we still questioning between he and Brady? And we'll get into Brady later, but who would be the guy that you would select as the MVP? Is Ryan at least in the top two?
Ryan. Has to be Ryan because it's so unexpected. Outside of the people in Atlanta and Jimmy Ty, I don't know that there were a whole bunch of people in the country that expected Atlanta to be in this position at this time of the year.
Yeah.
So if the name of the award is most valuable player,
right?
Who else fits that description any better than Matt Ryan?
And he did it with such ease. I mean, the guy looked like he was relaxed. He was having fun, especially that second half, Jimmy. And I got to say that you saw we gave you kudos on the Facebook, man.
Yeah.
I said because Jimmy Ty, he's the only one I remember that called this back in October. Chad States chimed in on Facebook, and he mentioned the fact that I should give you the whole show tonight. And I said, no, I'll open. And I said, I'll open up the show with Jimmy, but I'm not going to give him control because we'll just be out of control all night.
Yeah, because you know me, Greg.
Right? I know. That's what I'm saying, Jimmy. We know you. Anyhow, Dave, as we head into this Super Bowl, and now let me just ask some technical things, and we'll get into that Steelers-Patriots game in just a moment, because I don't know all the players on the Falcons, but I got to believe when we look at ratings, from a national standpoint on Super Bowl Sunday, now we've got, a group that's been there before, Tom Brady and the New England Patriots, although it looks like they change up like the actors, if you will, every year, and they just have guys coming out of the woodwork to get the job done. You got this team from Atlanta, man, that nobody even thinks about, and they're going to be at the Super Bowl 51 in Houston in 2 weeks. What kind of ratings can we expect? Is it going to be kind of soft?
Not good.
I'm not thinking either.
Not good.
No.
Already yesterday. And part of this is because of the nature of the game, and part of America's the overall ratings that you end up getting for a Super Bowl is how many stay tuned for the entire game. And the problem yesterday, and for the NFC Championship game, it was down 10% from a year ago.
Yeah.
And that primarily, I tend to agree that with a lot of people that talked about this, it was just the nature of the game. Because they just, there was no hope. At a certain point, you looked at the game and you knew that the Packers were not going to be able to get back into it.
Yeah.
And that causes the tune-out factor. But overall, down 10%. The Steelers and Patriots was actually up 3% from a year ago.
Really?
However, you combine the two and it's down. Obviously it'd be down 7%. Percent from a year ago. So I don't think it'll be good because Atlanta is just, and I feel bad for them because they put together a great football team and what a great atmosphere too. And for the fans that have been in the Georgia Dome for all those games for all these years, that's the last Falcons game inside that facility. Next year they'll be playing in their new facility next door. What a way to go. What a way to end it. And they were so loud.
Well,
the fans were fantastic. A tip of the cap to them in the Georgia Dome. And, they've had their ups and downs, and they've had to deal with disappointment with the Falcons over the years. But by God, they showed up yesterday, and what a great send-off.
Hey, Monday Night Sports Talk here on the airnetwork.net. Greg Banks in the studio. Dave Shannon, Altoona. Jimmy Ty, Hamburg, Pennsylvania. Jimmy Ty, by the way, predicted that Atlanta would make it to Super Bowl 51. And so, Jimmy, if I were like, if I were sort of like the reader, what's the guy that shows up with all the money, man, from the magazine that you never buy? For some reason, it's like they just bring all that cash. Jimmy, if I had it, I'd give it to you, but I don't. So, hey, good luck. Have fun. Anyhow, let's move on to the AFC Championship as the Patriots demolished the Steelers 36-17. Dave, I don't know. People were looking for excuses. I don't know. They had the flu earlier in the week. Guys were held out. Listen, we had Green, who, by the way, came back to practice on Wednesday, got the flu on Thursday, and then couldn't play yesterday. Then you got Le'Veon Bell. He's got a groin pull in the first quarter. Plus, don't forget, somebody sets the alarm off in the hotel. They wake up all the players at 3 o'clock. That prick, by the way, excuse my French, has already been arrested. He was a New England Patriots fan, by the way, that did that. So there is no excuse at this point that I really can hang my hat on. It was just a deplorable game yesterday for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Well, and I'm going to fault majority of this on coaching.
Okay.
And first of all, I'm going to fault defensive coordinator Keith Butler. I did not like what he did at the beginning of the season, but as the season went along, he showed an ability to adapt to the situation that he was in.
Yeah.
Now, there was this fear about the receivers being able to get open too easily if they go with a man defense in the secondary. And so they adopt the zone defense. It was the most deplorable zone defense I have ever watched in my life, because a lot of the guys that go back into their zones never stayed in their zones. They got drawn to the football and ended up leaving guys open by 10 and 15 yards.
Man,
and the purpose of the zone defense is to be around those guys so that they aren't that wide open. Maybe they're wide open by 5 yards.
Yeah.
But then if they're only open by 5 yards and you're speedy, you have a chance to step in and do an interception. So Keith Butler, bad on you.
Hey,
you did not adapt.
There's no chance to defend somebody who's already in the end zone waiting for the ball. Now, having said that, like the kid from Penn State, the lacrosse player. The guy never played football and caught a touchdown. Was it Hogan's, whatever his name was,
Chris
from
Hogan.
New England? Yeah.
Yeah, he played actually at Monmouth
At Monmouth,
University.
1 year in football, but he never played at Penn State. He was known for lacrosse. So here again, the athletes, the fact that Belichick and Brady have our number, Jimmy. Yesterday, would Le'Veon Bell staying in the game, would he have been a factor at all yesterday?
No, not at all, because D'Angelo Williams is a great backup. And if you remember, whenever Le'Veon was injured,
Right.
not injured.
First 4
suspended.
games, I think it was, yeah.
First 4 games, D'Angelo has stepped up big time. And, with D'Angelo Williams in there and without Le'Veon, no, not a factor at all. No, not at all.
Dave, does Belichick and Brady...
Let me say one thing.
Go ahead.
Let me say one thing, too, Greg, going back to coaching. And this is where the Steelers missed a hell of an opportunity, because the New England Patriots spent all week preparing for the running style of Le'Veon Bell, and it was evident immediately when D'Angelo Williams went into the game, because he's a more straight-ahead kind of guy. Give me the ball, I'm going straight ahead, here we go. Well, they're standing there being patient, because that's the way they practiced all week for Le'Veon Bell. And he was ripping off some really big gains. And instead of Haley, ride the horse till the horse needs to get a drink.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
He did not ride the horse. He started mixing in the pass plays. And I know you want to have a percentage of your plays, divided up maybe evenly or lopsided a little bit one way or the other. But when you have that situation, and I'm not a coach, but first of all, the results on the field have to say something. When D'Angelo Williams is ripping off 9 and 12-yard gains, and the best that I think that Le'Veon Bell had prior to that might have been a couple of 6-yard gains, you got to say, hey, wait a minute, we got to take advantage. These guys prepared for Le'Veon Bell. D'Angelo Williams is a different runner. Let's ride this until they figure out how to stop him, and then let's go into because they're going to have to adjust to that. And now maybe your receivers get a little more open. So I'm not a coach. I don't claim to be a coach, but I think that could have been handled better, and so therefore I'm going to damn Todd Haley for not making a good adjustment there.
Yeah, I always tell my brother here that, I'm not a doctor. I just play one in movies. Anyhow, Belichick and Brady, Jimmy, obviously have our number. Here, Belichick, let's talk about Brady momentarily. He has more playoff wins than 28 of the 32 teams in the NFL. You can't dismiss that this guy, as much as you hate him, you got to love him because he gets the job done. And obviously yesterday, nonchalantly, the guy got the job done. I mean, can we at least agree on that?
Yes, you can agree on that. We can agree on that. But the thing is about Brady, and I'll say this, is Belichick, everybody talks about how the Dallas Cowboys have like the best offensive line in football.
Right? Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say this. The New England Patriots, they have one of the best offensive lines in football because the Steelers, nobody, can bum rush Brady. He was just stand back there, 8-9 seconds, and then just pick them apart.
We were rushing 3 or 4 guys at a time, Jimmy.
Yeah, and if you pressure Brady, he's a little shaky. Just like remember whenever Anthony Hargrave, that Hargrave sacked him.
Right.
Pittsburgh needed more of that. But Brady, he has to be up there as not the best, one of the best of all time.
Monday Night Sports Talk here on the airnetwork.net. It's coming soon to an FM near you. We are testing 94.1 in the Huntington area. Dave Shannon has Bearcat basketball for you, Chad States with wrestling. And, of course, we will come to the airways for you, and we'll tell you more about that coming soon. Dave, let me ask you this, Belichick, man. What a strange bird, but what a efficient, disciplined team. I mean, the guy is like, he doesn't have to say anything. He just takes care of business. I saw a big difference yesterday. I mean, the Steelers just don't seem that disciplined and seemed unconditioned or out of condition in the fourth quarter. Not the Patriots, man. They were out basically to make a statement, and they reflect their coach. Does there have to be a coaching change for the Steelers? I don't want to put you on the spot, man, but you know what? That's how the football league works. Belichick is the face of it.
Yeah, well, here's the bottom line. Tomlin got you to the AFC Championship game, and you lost to one of the best teams in the NFL, if not the best team in the NFL.
Right.
So do you ditch a coach because he got you all the way to the championship game and he lost that game? Let's
He's been there 10 years now.
Work as a whole.
Yeah.
Do they have the best player personnel of any team in the NFL?
Right.
No, they don't.
Okay.
They have a lot of young guys that are learning. Their secondary, at the end of the season was really filled with a lot of guys that had such limited playing time so far in their career. And this gets us to that zone or man defense, what you're going to play. So here's the point. He got them there. I got to be honest with you, and I think I said this back at the beginning of the season. I look for the Steelers to go, 10-6 or maybe even 9-7. So they surprised me to get that far. And to that end, I'm going to say I can't get rid of him. I can't. He got me to the conference championship game, and he lost to a better team.
Hey,
could they have beaten him?
Yeah.
With a better game plan, maybe.
Hey,
but no, I'm not changing anything.
Can you guys indulge me for a second while I try something here? Let me see if I can get our partner, John Harris, on the phone here from Ohio. He, of course, is the host of the Ike Taylor Show and also the John Harris podcast. Now, this is going to be a surprise to him if he answers it, but I want to bring him in here just to kind of get his thought. Jimmy, you still there? And Dave, you still there?
We're still here.
Yep,
okay.
Still here.
Let's see if we can get John. Hey, John.
Yeah.
John Harris, Greg Banks, Dave Shannon, Jimmy Ty on Monday Night Sports Talk. Hey, didn't want to call you, but I want to call you real quick just to get your views on that Steeler game yesterday. I'm sorry to put you in a situation where I didn't let you know ahead of time, but I thought about you, and we thought maybe you can share your insight on what happened with that Steeler game. We talked a little bit about Belichick and Brady. They kind of got our number now, man. Is that the case?
Oh, no doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was taking candy from a baby.
Yeah.
It was easy.
Some of the stuff you and I talked about after the game last night, you were talking about that defense, and Jimmy and Dave just alluded to it. Guys, you can say hi to, that's my cousin, John Harris. He's a national sports journalist, by the way.
Hey, John.
Hey, John.
Yeah.
Hey, guys. How you doing?
Dave and Jimmy.
Right.
But anyhow,
Good,
real
good.
quick. Yeah, glad you could make it. But real quick, just want to kind of get your view, because you followed the team for years. You traveled with them. What seems to be the problem here? Is it coaching, or is it just execution from the players?
Well, I'm a little surprised that with the lack of success that the Steelers have had against New England, Tom Brady, in the past, that they didn't switch it up a little bit. I mean, the suggestion is that New England almost the whole year always, when they won the toss, would defer and take the kickoff in the second half. But the thinking being that the confidence level against the Steelers' offense, they felt like they could take the ball and take it down the field right away and get in front, which is exactly what they did. So that should tell you something right there. That they're kind of predictable in their strategy, but the fact that they changed it up against the Steelers, and Greg, we talked about it last week. My concern, I don't think people focus on it enough. You're starting two rookies in the secondary against Tom Brady,
right?
And I really felt that they were going to be able to handle James Harrison and Bud Dupree, and they did it. They chipped him on that flea flicker.
Oh my
Watch the
God!
replay.
Yeah,
Bud Dupree was chipped and then blocked down to the ground by a lineman. So they handled those two. I mean, heck, James Harrison got a penalty. 12th man? He couldn't get off the field. He was so tired.
And
they caught him.
Yeah.
They ran him into a puddle of sweat. So,
Yeah. Hey, Dave, do you have a question for John Harris? And then we'll get to Jimmy real quick because I want to hold John up much longer because I know he has things to do. But, Dave, anything you want to ask him about? Because he followed these guys for years.
Sure. One of the reasons we just called you, John, was because Greg brought up the question of does there need to be a coaching change in Pittsburgh? I don't really want to at this point. Boy, do I have a lot of disagreements with the way Todd Haley handled the game yesterday and also with the way that Keith Butler did. And Mike Tomlin is what he is, to use his own verbiage. And the bottom line is, I don't see a reason to change that. He got the team to the conference championship game. Why change at this point? What are your thoughts there as far as coaching goes?
Well, I think that's the reason why he's going to stay there. I for a while, though, in the time that I covered the Steelers and just watched after that, it's my opinion that they do need a change in the fact that what you saw yesterday. Now, are you playing to just be very good, which they are, and there's nothing wrong with that. If you're playing for number 7, as everybody says, another Super Bowl, then you're going to have to do things, but you can't be that predictable. And to me, the first thing they should do in the offseason, nothing. Mike Tomlin's going to be the coach. I don't see any changes taking place. Mm-hmm. But I would go out and invest heavily in a veteran cornerback.
Okay.
Because you're going to need somebody. Ike Taylor, we do the Ike Taylor show on the Air Network, and when the Steelers, they had their Super Bowl run, Ike would play man-to-man on one side,
right.
They would play zone on the other side. They're playing strictly zone now.
Yeah.
And to me, they're just giving up too much in the passing game.
And Dave talked about that earlier this evening. Jimmy, you have any questions for John before I let him go?
Yeah, my only question I have for John is, with Brady picking us apart in that zone defense, why couldn't Keith Butler, in the second half, please try to go to the man defense? Knowing that Brady is picking them out, that's like Dave said, that is a bad coaching decision to stay in that zone defense, knowing that Brady's doing what he's doing.
That's a great
point. That makes sense.
And, you drafted with Artie Burns, a first-round draft pick. Hey, if he gets, they got torched for long plays in the zone. If he gets torched by one of those receivers, so be it. But let him do it. Let Brady have to throw a perfect pass. And beat him in a big pass, but do something. Chuck somebody. There was one play where Antonio Brown tried to run down the field. I saw it. They just knocked him down at the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
I didn't see any of that with the New England receiver. They just cleared the line and ran wherever they wanted to go.
And, John, as much as we love Ike, we often discuss the fact that even Ike said, when he was man-to-man, he loved that. But the reality is, oftentimes, you get beat man-to-man. So you're going
to get beat.
Yeah.
You're going to get beat. I think you have – the one thing about – and we used to discuss it a lot, the one thing that the man gives you, when you had one person guarding half the field, you were able to – you could rush, you could defend better, you could rush more people. When you have to use linebackers –
Yep, you can pressure the quarterback.
Exactly. And that's what he enabled them to do. And now they don't do that because they're playing zone, so there's more responsibility for the linebackers in pass defense.
Well, let me ask you this, John. Do you want to stick around for a while? Do you have a minute? Maybe I can ask some more questions, and you can kind of join us in your assessment of the Steeler game?
Yeah, I can go a few more minutes.
Okay, well, let's go this. Let me ask Dave first. Dave, as we head into this Super Bowl, and I'll get a prediction from you guys in a little bit, What do you see with this Falcons team and, of course, the veterans from New England? I mean, Belichick's going to have some strategy for these guys, and he could shake up Matt Ryan, or Matty Ice as he's known.
Yeah, I think obviously this is not going to be a repeat of the Green Bay game.
No.
Atlanta's not going to do to New England what they did to Green Bay. I think it will be a closer game. Now, the question is it going to be close in the third quarter, and will the Falcons' defense be absolutely spent by the end of the third quarter, and then the Patriots just pull away at the end of the game? Mm-hmm. I can see that happening in that game. I can see them playing close up to the third quarter, and then all of a sudden it gets away from the Falcons. That's kind of the way I think that's going to unfold.
Monday Night Sports Talk, Greg Banks in the studio. John Harris on the line from Ohio. Dave Shannon, by the way, in Altoona, and Jimmy Ty near Philadelphia and Hamburg. Jimmy, let me ask you, and then I'll go to John. Here we have this game coming up in 2 weeks of one of the teams that's unknown. We haven't watched Falcons that much. You predicted that they would get to the Super Bowl. But having said that, you know, what do they have to do to make this happen, man? Because these guys are rookies. These guys are young. You got a lot of veterans. You got a lot of weapons on this New England team.
But to win the Super Bowl, the Falcons?
Oh, yeah.
They have just to run the ball. Run the ball with Freeman and Julio Jones, because we all know the one thing that Belichick's going to do is take out their best player. Mm-hmm. Who just like what the Patriots did yesterday, they took out Antonio Brown basically.
Right.
So the Patriots are going to take out Julio Jones in the passing game. So that means it's up to Taylor Gabriel, and it's up to the Sanu as receivers. But the other main factor is it's up to Freeman, the Falcons running back, to have a huge game like he was doing all last year. Because Belichick can't take two big players out, so they're going to focus on their main player, which is Julio Jones.
That's right.
And Julio Jones is going to be up against Malcolm Butler, the Super Bowl MVP a few years ago, so that's going to be a big matchup. So that's what my thing is. If Julio Jones can not be shut out of that game,
right,
then the Falcons are going to – my prediction, the Falcons are going to torch him. But if Julio Jones is shut down,
right, then
the Patriots are going to torch him, because we all know that the Patriots are going to do that hurry up offense, just like what they did
yesterday. Yep.
And that's going to, like Dave said, they're going to be spent. But the good thing about the Super Bowl, they have an hour-long halftime break.
Yeah.
Am I right?
I hope to God Madonna doesn't show up. Right. Hey, I hope Madonna doesn't show up at that. Monday Night Sports Talk, by the way, the home of course, John Harris and the podcast, along with the Ike Taylor Show. And, John, I'll let you, of course, kind of wrap this up as we start with these predictions and anything else you want to add about this upcoming Super Bowl. It amazes me. The ratings have to really suck, but, hey, that's what I'm thinking. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, the Brady Matty Ice thing is cool, but I think everybody wanted the Brady Aaron Rodgers thing.
Yeah,
it would have been more appealing and from a national thing. But that's the way it is. Green Bay was a team that basically gave everything that they had, didn't have anything left. It was obvious the injuries took its toll, and I'm telling you, this reminds me a lot of last year's Super Bowl, where you had this unbelievable Carolina team that just stampeded through the playoffs and blew everybody out, but was new to the Super Bowl. And we saw what happened in the Super Bowl against Denver. Yeah. I'm not saying the same thing's going to happen, but you have an Atlanta team doesn't have a lot of experience with this. It's, as it builds up, it's a lot different. And obviously the Patriots are experts in this Super Bowl thing and preparation and the whole deal. And I just think Brady at this stage at 39, I mean, he wants this really, really bad.
Yeah.
And New England is just, they don't let teams run on them. They're gonna make Julio Jones really work hard.
Yeah.
And the pressure's going to be on those other guys, those other receivers. They're the ones that are going to have to step up, and we'll see how they step up in the spotlight of the Super Bowl.
Hey, before I get your prediction, John, and along with Dave and Jimmy, let me ask you, John, real quick, being on the podcast and talking some of these national figures and, of course, the Ike Taylor Show, let me ask you, Ben, what do? We need a succession plan. Do the Steelers have a succession plan? Because you mentioned that Brady's 39. Ben's going to be 35, I think. We got to do something. I mean, what's your What do you think the thinking is here? Do we trade up in the draft, or what do? We got to do something.
You talking about the quarterback?
Yeah, I'm talking about the quarterback position. We can't.
You got your quarterback, Landry Jones, buddy. There he is.
Oh, come on, dude. Come on. No. You think?
You think I'm kidding? That's their quarterback.
You think he's going to be able to fulfill Ben's?
Well, who do you think?
Well, I'm saying, wouldn't we go into the draft and maybe try to trade up and get somebody like? Well, I know we're not going to get the kid from Georgia, but I mean, can't we get somebody for the future?
Yeah, they could, but I don't. I mean, one thing about the Steelers I learned it was that when you would try to predict who they would draft, and using the logic that you would apply, they follow a certain. I remember last year when they signed Robert Golden. And everybody said, oh, no, he's not going to be the safety. And they signed him to this contract. It wasn't a huge contract, but there was guaranteed money involved. They signed him to be the safety, and he got hurt.
Oh,
but they signed him to be the safety. That's what they do. Now, to me, you can't treat quarterback like you do other positions.
Yeah.
You got to get somebody that can play and step in. And Landry Jones, to this point, has not shown that he can do that. But I don't see, even if you bring a quarterback in next year, it's still going to be Ben Roethlisberger's team unless he gets hurt.
Yeah, but I'm saying somebody to sit on the sideline like a Dak Preston, which he didn't have the chance, but if he would have had the chance behind Romo, if Romo would have been healthy, Dak would have been the backup. That would have been a great future. We don't seem to have a future at quarterback right now, John. That's what I'm saying.
No, they don't. No,
okay.
New England does.
Yeah.
That's the thing that always bothered me about the Steelers with Ben. It was like they were afraid to bring somebody in like it was going to be an insult to Roethlisberger. Well, he's not better than Tom Brady, but they brought in quarterbacks throughout the time. They've got Garoppolo now. Who can replace Brady. So if New England can do it, why can't the Steelers do it?
And they play to a system in New England, too, so it doesn't matter if Brady's in there or not because he wasn't in there the first 4 games. So let me get your prediction, John Harris, of course, from the John Harris podcast and the Ike Taylor Show. Who's going to win this thing, man? Give me some kind of idea and a score, and then I'll go to Dave and Jimmy.
New England 31-24.
31-24. Dave, what are you saying?
I'm going New England 37 and Atlanta 28. 37-28.
Ooh, okay. And Jimmy?
I'm going to go with Atlanta 34, New England 24.
And John, you must remember Jimmy Ty, the guy you just heard from, predicted that Atlanta would make it to the Super Bowl back in October. He's the only one outside of Atlanta that did that.
But I am sad. I will say this. I will say this, John, that I am, even though I predicted Atlanta to make it to the Super Bowl back in October, I am sad that the Packers did not make it because it would have been a great matchup with Brady and Rodgers. And, So, but even though it's Atlanta, I predicted that. So I have street cred tonight.
Yes, you do.
We got to get
information, man.
Yeah. Yes, he does. Hey, Jimmy. Hey, John. He's sort of like our friend. What's his name? Andy Benoit and Dave. This guy. He's walking around like an encyclopedia, and sometimes he scares me, man. Hey, well, he doesn't scare me. Oh, he scares me on football. He scares me even more when he's dating women. So, Jimmy, listen to what I got to tell you about that. Hey, John Harris of the John Harris podcast, of course.
I'm a good person.
John Harris of the John Harris podcast here on the airnetwork.net and the Ike Taylor Show. Hey, thank you, John, for joining us. I hope you join us again on Monday Night Sports Talk, dude.
All right, guys, just let me know.
All right, we will.
Nice
Thanks. All right, nice talking with you, too. John Harris, of course, of the John Harris podcast and of the Ike Taylor Show. And I just thought I had to ask him that, Dave, as we move forward because Jimmy, he had that Falcon thing in his hip pocket, and we had to acknowledge him yesterday on Facebook, And then, of course, he came.
I got to give him credit even going into tonight. He danced with the one that brung him.
Yeah.
And that's what you got to do. You got to dance with the one that brung you.
Yeah. But the problem with Jimmy is
you go to Vegas and bet big monay.
Yeah, you could, Jimmy. Hey, you put some of that good money down there on Vegas, okay, for this Super Bowl. But listen, leave the women alone because, hey, Dave, he was talking to me about some new chick like on the phone while you were out making coffee, man. I'm trying to give him advice.
Nice. She's a very nice woman.
Okay. Well, listen, all I know is
save this discussion it
nice.
for off air.
Yes, we will. And listen, we got to take a break right now. We thank John Harris for joining us. But we got more sports coming up next here on Monday Night Sports Talk. Stick around.
Pennsylvania Highlands Community College provides you the option to earn an associate degree, diploma, or certificate at an affordable cost. The Penn Highlands Huntington Center, located on Margie Drive in Huntington, offers degree programs in business management, criminal justice, liberal arts and sciences, and psychology. Are you ready to take the next step on your career path? Contact Penn Highlands Huntington at 814-643-6200 or visit Penn Highlands Community College online at pennhighlands.edu.
Mel's Concrete in Huntington has over 20 years experience in providing you with quality concrete work. When you have any job dealing with concrete, call Mel Woomer at 643-0909. Mel's Concrete specializing in porches, patios, basements, sidewalks, and more. Mel's Concrete also specializes in snow removal. There's no job too big or too small when it comes to concrete. Call Mel's Concrete, LLC at 643-0909.
It's a brand new year, so start it off right by shedding those pounds and living a healthy lifestyle. Call Dr. Michael Simone at Simone Family Chiropractic and Weight Loss at 613 Washington Street, downtown Huntington, for a proven safe way to shed those extra pounds. Dr. Simone utilizes the doctor-supervised Chiro Thin weight loss program that helps you lose significant weight without exercise, expensive prepackaged foods, or diet shakes. It's real food with real results. Try the Chiro Thin plan on your way to a healthier you by calling Dr. Simone for a free consultation. Call 643-2616 for a happier you.
Grab the Big Kahuna, the 24 square cut pizza with your choice of one topping for only $19.99. Now at All American Pizza and Subs at 612 Washington Street, downtown Huntington. All American Pizza and Subs has delivery, and they're the home of great pizza, subs, salad, wings, and more for lunch, dinner, or a late night snack. Call All American Pizza and Subs right now at 643-0222. Closed Mondays. All American Pizza and Subs. Like us on Facebook. It's the AirNetwork.net, Monday Night Sports Talk. Dave Shannon live in Altoona, Jimmy Ty in Hamburg near Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Greg Banks live in the studio. By the way, Dave Shannon joining us again, coming up, I believe that's February 3rd, when the Lady Bearcats take on Phillipsburg Osceola. That is coming up on the AirNetwork.net. And we have wrestling with Chad States, who's under the weather tonight. Get better, buddy, as he, of course, does the Central Huntington match on February 1st. You don't want to miss it. We also, by the way, Dave, are working on that FM transmitter, and I think I found out why we were getting that hum. So technically, I'm ready, and we may go on the air, next Monday at 94.1. We'll tell the folks more about that. Want to thank John Harris for joining us. That's a lot of fun. He gives us insight. He could tell you some stories, guys, that would probably last 3 or 4 hours. He's been with these guys from the Steelers since like the 80s.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, and so it's kind of cool. He and Ike have a real good relationship because they started that radio show in Pittsburgh and then joined us here on the Air Network. But let's move forward here. Dave, I'll start with you and then Jimmy. We've got baseball coming up in probably less than a month. At least they report. But there was a sad occasion yesterday where there were 2 players who have been affiliated with the major leagues who were killed in car crashes, 2 separate car crashes in the Dominican Republic. Deaths of Yordano Ventura of the KC Royals, and, of course, Andy Marte, who was in our Pittsburgh Pirates farm system years ago and played for a lot of major league teams. That bothers me, man, because I often think back to last summer when we lost, what was his name, Hernandez, or the young guy down in Florida.
Right.
Yeah,
for Fernandez.
Yeah, so give me an idea of what you're feeling here when you see that happen before the season gets underway. We all go into it with sort of a heavy heart. We stop for a minute and we remember that, hey, we're only human. Things happen in sort of like, in a, rather quickly.
Yeah, well, the one thing you can't do, Greg, is put guys in a bubble. I understand now. We all remember in the early years of Ben Roethlisberger when he got into that motorcycle accident.
Right.
And then it was like, you aren't doing that again. And okay, so doing a motorcycle is one thing. Driving a car is another.
Yeah, we all do it.
I think though, overall, I think, and this runs across all sports, I don't think there's enough mentors that come into the professional sports ranks to talk to the young guys about, okay, what you've been doing up to this point has been for a school, and you've been an amateur. Now you're being paid for it, and there's a certain way. Maybe you didn't have to conduct yourself in a specific way when you were in college or wherever it was that you were, but now there is a code of conduct here, and this is the way you need to,
Do you think it's because they take more risks? I mean, obviously, they're taking more risks.
Yeah, I think that has a little bit to do with it. Nobody's saying don't have fun, okay?
Yeah.
But what they're, to a degree, and it's like this is, I don't know, an oxymoron, but have fun responsibly.
Yeah.
In other words, set yourself up so that, you're going out and you're having a party with your friends, and you're going out and whatever it is, you go to a club to dance or whatever, but you know that you have to get yourself to a point where, okay, I got to cut it off at this point, and I need to get home because, it's just the smart thing to do.
Well,
I have a life. This party's great, but I have a life that I have to live after this party's over.
Yeah.
And I need to be healthy to do that.
And that happens in any league. It doesn't matter whether it's Major League Baseball. I just kind of point to that now. But, Jimmy, having said that, you're a young guy. The case of Orlando Ventura, I think he was like 24, 25. I don't know the details of these crashes either, Dave, I must mention, okay? So
no,
I don't know.
Don't either,
yes, we don't have that information right now.
But I read online tonight before we went on air that Ventura was not wearing a seatbelt.
Okay.
And he was driving under the influence.
But okay, so that could be a problem, as was the case of the young man in Miami.
Yeah.
I mean, because he's on a boat, the night before they play another game, Yeah.
And the thing is about these pro athletes, and that they think they're like
invincible.
Like they said, they think they're invincible.
Yeah.
The one thing that I know that the NBA does,
right?
I know that the NFL does. I'm not sure about if NHL or Major League Baseball do. Is when these rookies come into the league.
Yes.
They have like a rookie incentorium, and they bring like people in like
mentors.
For instance, they bring in like Ray Rice.
Yeah.
You don't hit women.
Yeah.
This is what happens.
He's probably not the best example. Okay, but he's a
like that, and you give these rookies examples.
Yeah.
This is how you spend your money. If you want to party, once you party at your house, don't go out and drive.
Yeah.
Because you're not only going to hurt yourself out there, you're going to hurt somebody else.
Which leads me to this. I don't mean to cut you off, Jimmy, but it leads me to sort of like when we were all young, 22, 23, 24, and in many instances, Jimmy, you still live that death-defying life.
Not anymore.
Well, we're not getting into that tonight, okay?
No,
but
I'm an old 40-year-old.
Well, you ought to listen to me, okay? But what I'm saying is, so there's these young guys, and I wasn't going through that 22 because I was already married, but I might have gone through it at 19. I'm invincible. I'm like Superman. I'm Teflon. Yeah. And, I can get in a car and I can drive 100 miles, like an hour, or I can drive drunk. And the reality is you can't. So let me say this, Dave. I read a recent article about Terrell Pryor's. We're all familiar with Terrell. He had a connection with Johnstown. His mom lived at Solomon Homes, and, he was living somewhere else. But he left the league, and that whole tattoo thing at Ohio State, that was a situation where he was already grown up. He was well beyond his age because he grew up in the projects. But he was saying, look, I needed to get my mom money to get her a house. So in his instance, he grew up rather quickly. A lot of times guys don't grow up quickly, Dave. You know what? They're still out there exploring and taking risks.
Well, and I'm watching a kid here on TV right now. I have the Duke basketball game on, okay?
And
I'm seeing
Good
this
example.
Allen kid that plays for Duke. honest to God, I don't know how in the hell he is still at Duke.
I know.
The attitude, he just took off on one of the South Carolina players here tonight.
Yeah.
You know, and started something tonight. And if I've watched anything and know anything about Duke basketball over the course of the years, it's that Coach K will not
tolerate
allow
that.
you to become the focus of the team. It's the team. Now,
exactly.
If what you do on the court as far as scoring points, executing a game plan, all of that makes you important, then that's all well and good. That just happens on its own because you're that good.
Yeah.
But when you get to the point where you have to get the headlines now because you want to take an elbow to somebody's head, or you want to, turn it into a wrestling match, then, but there's an example of a young guy who really needs to be reined in, and if you don't rein him in now,
it's going to be too late when he gets to the league. Hey, Dave, can you imagine, or Jimmy, this kid gets into the NBA and he wants to trip somebody? Guess what's going to happen? He's going to be pulling back a kickstand. Seriously.
Think about let's say Grayson Allen goes into the NBA. He gets drafted by the Denver Nuggets.
Yeah, let's say
or the Philadelphia 76ers. And he goes after LeBron James.
Oh, my God.
Grayson Allen's going to be sitting up in the rafters from LeBron James on Punch.
Yeah, one day.
He's going to be seeing next week, a couple of days early.
Next week. God, yeah.
I just saw an article on Johnny Manziel. I mean, can't we, for the life of us, look at these examples and say, I had the benefit of 6 other brothers. And I've share this with you guys quickly here on Monday Night Sports Talk. I knew what not to do when I was a teenager. You know why? Because I'd seen them do it. And I saw what the consequences were. And I said, when I got to be 13, 14, I know I'm not going to do that. You know what I mean? So I knew not to do that.
Yeah.
A real quick story. There's a baseball player. He now plays for Texas, for the Texas Rangers. He was drafted number 1 by the San Diego Padres a couple years ago.
Right.
And then he gets traded to the Tampa Bay Rays. They're down in Port Charlotte, where I used to live.
Yeah.
Down in Florida. And his name is Matt Bush. He went out driving drunk. He was on Tamiami Square.
Right.
Remember, it's a major road down there in Port Charlotte. Drunk, and he hits an innocent guy, a grandfather, riding a motorcycle. Grandfather's now is I believe the grandfather is can't walk or anything.
He's paralyzed. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, he's paralyzed. Yeah. And so they threw Matt Bush into jail for a few years, and now he's pitching for the Texas Rangers.
Yeah, well, and it happens because we are
the same way.
Dave, are we not a society of second chances sometimes? I mean, I just saw a name today that's on waivers in Major League Baseball where we started this conversation. Josh Hamilton. How many chances has he had? He's down in the minors, and he just signed another contract. Yep. Now, having said that, Jose Bautista now in Toronto again for one more year. So,
yeah, and here's another one to look at, too. Yasiel Puig is starting to go down that road.
Yep.
And if somebody doesn't do something, you talk about unlimited potential as far as an athlete in baseball goes. Puig has it. Yeah. But right now, no one is mentoring him. No one is trying to guide him, apparently. I don't know that. I'm not in the Dodgers organization. But by golly, for as much potential as he has and as much money as they may be paying him, I would make sure that he had a mentor who was getting those things under control before they turned into a Josh Hamilton.
Hey, but the Dodgers did the same thing that the Altoona Curve. Let's get it at local level. That whenever a Latino player comes in, speaks no English, we bring them into, there's a guy in Altoona, Dave, and you may be familiar with him, owned the cab company. A lot of these guys, he was the mentor. He spoke Spanish. So, even though they lived in homes with some of the, sort of like the boarding homes or with these people who were Curve fans, if you will, Puig had somebody there 24 hours a day. When he came in, somebody was the mentor.
You see where his life's going, Greg.
He didn't listen.
See that his life is starting to spiral.
Right.
Well, maybe that's true, But if his life is starting to spiral, you need to get somebody else in there because whoever the mentor is not being strong enough. Now, I'm not saying, that you have to be very mean or that there has to be a lot of threats or anything like that.
Yeah.
But there will be a response by guys who like to get out of control like this to a strong individual. And maybe the mentor who is currently taking care of that player is not strong enough.
Well, I remember when he was taking a helicopter through the ball field, the guy that was mentoring him said, hey, that came out of nowhere. Well, the reality is, hey, Dave, it's pay grades. I'm not getting paid to do all that. They only paid me to watch this guy, to interpret for this guy, and to make sure he was taken care of and made comfortable. Well, when you baby people, we know what happens. Johnny Manziel, he was babied all his life.
And the funny thing is about these pro athletes. Let's go to our local level in Johnstown, right? Remember when we had the Johnstown Chiefs?
Exactly. Yes.
We went out. As Greg knows, I used to be a disc jockey back in Johnstown.
Right.
So I would play at a club back in Johnstown, and every Friday night or Saturday, and whenever they had a game, they would all show up at the Guystown Country Club
and tear up bars and get crazy
piss ass drunk.
Yep.
Tear up bars. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And now you look at the Johnstown Tomahawks. These guys, these kids.
These are young kids.
They live with the
families, right?
In Richland, in Guystown, or wherever, and they're being mentored, going into college, knowing what they're supposed to do. But these Johnstown Chiefs players, they were 21, 22 years old, just living it up.
That was kind of a different league, though, Jimmy, because these young kids are still in high school. They are living with these families. I understand.
But what I'm trying to say is they're the same ages as that Ventura. Right. They're the same age as.
Yep. Now,
and these kids, even though they were in the minor leagues,
right?
They never had mentors knowing, hey, whenever I make it to the NHL, like the one guy for sure, I remember he played for the Philadelphia Flyers. His name is Jody Shelley.
Okay.
He would always get piss-ass drunk. He would come up to my DJ stand, make a racket, and I'm like, dude, just leave. I don't care if you're a hockey player.
Yeah.
And I remember one time I told him, I said, the day you make it to the NHL is the day you can be a disc jockey.
Yeah.
The funny thing is 2 weeks later, the Philadelphia Flyers call him, and he's playing for the Flyers.
And that's why I got out of disc jockeying, because, man, people kept putting their beers on my speakers. And Anyhow, listen, Monday Night Sports Talk here at the Air Network. Dave Shannon in Altoona, Jimmy Ty in Hamburg. Jimmy, let me ask you about this real quick, Dave, and then we'll go to Penguins. Hall of Fame. We've got some guys that got into the Hall of Fame this year. Pug Rodriguez, I think, was one of the guys. Who else did we have go in there?
Jeff Bagwell.
And
Tim Raines.
Okay, so now we're in this era of HGA. We're in this era now. Barry Bonds actually got a lot of votes. So sooner or later, the old school, the newspaper writers are going to go, and he's going to end up getting in there. Roger Clemens going to get in there. Do you guys agree? Yes or no? I mean, that's all I want to know. Well, are they eventually going to get into the Hall of Fame? Yeah.
Let's look at these two guys and what they got this year. Number 8 in the balloting was Barry Bonds at 53.8. Remember, you need 75 to get into the Hall.
Yeah.
And Roger Clemens came in at number 7 with 54%. Now, two guys that didn't make it this year, guys that are going to make it based on this voting, is going to be Trevor Hoffman, who had 74%, just missed being voted into the Hall of Fame, and Vladimir Guerrero. Okay, neither of which have ever been implicated in anything when it comes to the steroid era.
No.
So we're not quite there, but Greg, I think eventually, I think you've nailed it. At a point in the future,
because the old guard moves on.
People that will. Yeah, well, there's going to be people, and we become a very statistical-oriented society where sometimes we just overstat things.
Yeah.
And I hear broadcasters just ripping off stats, and it's like, look, buddy, I don't care if he plays lousy when he has an ingrown toenail on Tuesdays when the moon's half full.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
That doesn't matter. Those stats just don't matter to me.
Right.
And stop, jamming stats, but that's the way we've become. We are a stat-driven society, and when that becomes the case, you can't ignore regardless of how he got those stats, you can't ignore what Barry Bonds did.
No, there's no way. You and I watched him as a Pirate, man.
Make a point in the future.
Right.
They're going to be there.
Hey, Jimmy, let me ask you that. David Ortiz, Big Papi, he's got 5 years, actually 4 now, I think, or 5, and he gets into the Hall of Fame. Is he going to, because there was always question that Big Papi might have used. Well, hell, a lot of guys might have used. Does he get in? No. I mean, does Big Papi get in? Because I think that guy is one of the most popular people now with commercials. There are some youngsters that don't even know the guy played baseball.
He's going to be, my pick, he'll be a first ballot Hall of Famer. If not, he'll be second ballot Hall of Famer. Because what he did for that Red Sox organization when they were down in the dumps.
Right.
He brought them their very first World Series. He was the one who hit the big home run in 2004 against the Yankees, the win the ALCS, whatever.
And he dropped the big F-bomb during the 9/11.
Yeah.
Love him for that.
Yeah. So, yes, he'll be in. He is. You look at the Boston athletes, your Brady's and all that. Right now, Big Papi is just as popular as Tom Brady is in Boston.
Yeah, he is.
So yes,
you're right.
He will be in.
You're right.
First ballot.
Dave, is there somebody that you're surprised that was not in the balloting this year that probably should have been, that we might have overlooked? Like as far as Hall of Fame, baseball. The fact that Bud Selig got into the Hall of Fame, too. I mean, come on. It was during his watch that these guys were loading up on these steroids and stuff. How's he get in if nobody else gets in?
Yeah, let me talk about, a couple of guys that I'm looking at the list here, that the baseball writers and the way it went. There's one guy here, and I'm afraid that he is not going to make it. I hope that he does, but I don't know that he will. From Pennsylvania, was such a big part of the Yankees' success, but I don't think he ever makes it, and that's Mike Mussina. Mike Mussina from up there around the Lock Haven, Williamsport area.
Yeah.
Mike was, and I.
Was he a Cincinnati Red?
Sweeney Murdy, who covers the Yankees now exclusively, but has been involved in New York baseball for a long time as a reporter. And I read one of Sweeney's posts not that long ago, just, about the kind of guy that Mussina was and what he really meant to that team, things that people did not see, and how the team, there were members of the team, certainly as he got older, that went to Mike Mussina for advice. Well, you don't see that. That's no stat. You don't know those kinds of things unless you were around the team all the time. So there's a guy, I hope he does. I don't think he's going to, though. And that's going to be unfortunate because that's a guy that deserves to be there.
Okay, well, listen, I'll give you the last word on that as far as Major League Baseball. We're set for, of course, about a month away. Training camp's open. We'll talk more about that coming up on the airnetwork.net. Here on Monday Night Sports Talk, Dave Shannon live in Altoona, Jimmy Ty in Hamburg, PA, near Philadelphia. Greg Banks in the studio, and hoping that our good friend Chad States recovers from whatever that ailment is. Chad, we'd love to have you back. Hey, listen, 94.1 Huntington, you'll be able to tune in, listen to Bearcat Sports, of course, with all of our programming, whether it's Monday Night Sports Talk or the Ike Taylor Show or the John Harris Podcast. We'll tell you more about that coming up as we test our signal tonight. This show is rebroadcast at 10 o'clock, and you may be able to hear that on 94.1 FM. Dave, let me ask you, the Penguins been looking really good lately. Matter of fact, a couple of blowouts here recently. Thinking of the one game, where the hell did they play where it was like 7-0 one night? I'm watching the game. Was it Carolina?
Was at, the Carolina Hurricanes.
Oh, my God.
That game was going on as we had Lady
Oh, you were doing the Bearcats hoops. That's right.
How about that Lady that Lady Bearcat hoops game?
It was
just outstanding.
Nail-biter. Thank you, man. Good job.
Yeah. Tip of the cap to the girls, the Lady Bearcats, for getting back into that. But the Penguins, here's a good thing that happened, Greg. They had lost 3 in a row. They come back, and it looked like they were on their way to losing their 4th in a row to the Capitals at Pittsburgh last Monday. They go down 3-0 early in the game, and then they just unleash the cannons. This is something the Penguins are capable of doing, and scored 3 goals in just a little over 2 minutes. And suddenly that game was tied. And then not long after that, they score a goal to go ahead 4-3 heading into the third period. Now, they did end up having to go to overtime, but they won the game. They get 8. They end up scoring 8 goals and win the game. Big goal production, as you said, against the Carolina Hurricanes. And yesterday, they were starting to go down that road again with the Boston Bruins. The Bruins, there's a lot of talk about whether Claude Julien is still going to be the manager of that, or head coach of the Bruins, when the Penguins take on Boston coming up Thursday of this week. And by the way, the NHL heading into the All-Star break, the All-Star game is Sunday in Los Angeles. So that is coming up. But tip of the cap, Connor Sheary. And I know you've been watching the Pens a little bit more, Greg, but you have to be impressed with Connor Sheary. The young man was awarded, they do this on a weekly basis in the NHL, and they pick the top player in the league. And it's like at the end of the game, they award 3 stars at the end of the game. Connor Sheary was selected with the first star in the NHL for this past week.
I'm impressed by a lot of those guys these days.
Oh, yeah, no, it is just amazing. And don't forget that we have a number, these games where we're getting these big wins, that the defense is holding these teams down with guys that are not part of the Penguins' regular defense, including Chad Ruedel, who has been called up, and I keep forgetting the other guy's name. But those 2 young men have come up. You got Brian Dumoulin and Chris Letang down right now.
Yeah. And what's a young kid from Wilkes-Barre Scranton that's up? He's been looking good, too. That Gens kid or
Jake Gensel.
Yeah,
Gensel on offense. I think he's going to stay for a while now because he has really clicked on the Malkin line.
Oh, no doubt.
You got him out there with Hornquist. You got Hornquist, Malkin, and Gensel, and they're really good. They're really good together. I think they're going to try to keep that line together, and maybe at some point Gensel will run out of gas. But for right now, that's the way that's going to roll. And what that did was allow Chris Kunitz to go down on the 4th line to make the 4th. They have 4 lines. Their 4th line would probably be maybe a 2nd or 3rd line on many other NHL teams.
And it's incredible, man. You know what? And Dave, I know you're excited as I am. Now that football season's over, we're heading into the real hockey season. And, of course, Major League Baseball. Listen, I want to thank you and Jimmy Ty and Chad States, because you guys are what helped us build the back of the infrastructure of the Air Network. We're growing every day. Ike Taylor, John Harris, and a whole bunch more, plus the FM signal coming up. We are obviously very happy with how we're growing, slowly but exponentially, and I want to thank you guys personally. Thank you, guys.
You're welcome,
Thank you, Greg.
All right.
Thank you, Greg.
Hey, listen, we'll do this again next Monday night. Monday Night Sports Talk, 7 o'clock. Of course, we'll let you know more about our new signal in Huntington and the confines of the borough at 94.1 as we test that out. Meanwhile, hey, don't forget Dave Shannon with basketball. Lady Cats coming up on February 1st. Or is that, that's Chad on the 1st, right? With wrestling?
Yep.
And then you've got Lady Bearcats along with Phillipsburg Osceola coming up on the 3rd. So, hey, Dave, you've been doing a hell of a job. Everybody says it's like, he must be a pro. It's like, come on, man. Get the hell out of here. That's Dave Shannon. He's on the Air Network. Hey, and Jimmy Ty, they're like, dude, that guy, like, he knows what he's talking about when it comes to the Falcons. We'll see how that works out, Jimmy.
All right, buddy.
All right, you're experts. Thank you, dudes. Have a good night.
See you later.
Thanks for listening.
Good night.